Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth's underachievers outsmart the alien elite in deep space. The sleek alien ship descended upon Seoul's Han River Park, its silver hull gleaming in the morning light. Government officials and media crews gathered in a cordoned-off area as humanity faced its first official contact with the Galactic Hemini. The aliens had announced their arrival 3 days earlier, sending Earth into a frenzy of preparation and speculation. Captain Mull stepped out of the vessel, tall and slender with bluish skin that seemed to shimmer under the sunlight. For arms extended from a torso covered in ceremonial garments, and large eyes scanned the crowd with evident curiosity. "We seek Earth's brightest minds," the translator device at Mull's throat announced. The Galactic Hemini offers 4 positions at our prestigious Interstellar Academy. Our scans will identify your most exceptional individuals. Behind the barriers, Nar Park watched with mild interest. At 32, she held 3 engineering degrees but worked as a convenience store clerk. Her brilliance was matched only by her inability to hold a proper job. Employers found her tendency to rebuild their equipment without permission troublesome. Today, she'd only come to the park to test her homemade drone before her afternoon shift. Half a kilometer away, Takim wiped grease from his hands as he finished repairing a food truck's engine. The community college dropout had a natural talent for fixing things but lacked the patience for formal education. The food truck owner paid him in cash and dumplings, which suited Takim fine. He barely noticed the commotion by the river. In a small laboratory at Seoul National University, Ji Kong stared at her computer screen, forgetting again what she had been researching. Her colleagues called her a scattered genius, brilliant insights followed by weeks of distraction. Papers remained half-written while she pursued new ideas. Today, she'd wandered away from an important presentation to follow a thought about quantum particle behavior. At a veterans center across town, Don Lee demonstrated self-defense techniques to fellow former soldiers. Military service had given structure to his creative problem-solving, but civilian life proved challenging. He bounced between security jobs, too innovative in his approaches for companies seeking rigid protocol followers. None of these 4 paid much attention when the aliens activated their scanning technology, a purple light that swept across the city. The Hemini's advanced metrics sought neural patterns indicating exceptional intelligence and problem-solving capacity. What they didn't realize was that their algorithm had a fundamental flaw when applied to humans. It prioritized unconventional neural pathways over traditional markers of success. Hours later, government agents knocked on 4 doors across Seoul. Park Nar, a stern woman in a black suit, stood at Nar's apartment door. "Please pack essentials for an extended journey. You've been selected by the Galactic Hemini." Nar laughed. "Very funny. Did Minnie put you up to this?" The agent showed her official documentation and footage of the alien announcement. "This is not a joke. Transport leaves in 2 hours. Across town, Takim responded to his notification with equal disbelief. "I fix engines. I barely graduated high school. This is ridiculous." "Nevertheless, you've been selected," the agent insisted. "The scan identified something in your neural patterns." G was easier to convince. The idea of alien educational institutions fascinated her immediately. She began packing research materials before the agent finished explaining. Don approached the situation with military precision, asking detailed questions about security protocols and diplomatic implications. When satisfied, he efficiently packed a single duffel bag. The 4 met for the first time at a government facility, eyeing each other with confusion and suspicion. "There must be some mistake," Nar said, looking around the room. "I'm terrible at holding jobs. I dropped out of college," Tai admitted. "I forget to eat when I'm thinking," G offered. Don simply nodded. "Former military. Nothing special." A screen activated, showing Captain Mull. "Greetings, selected humans. You represent Earth in the greatest educational institution in 16 galaxies. Prepare for departure. Excuse me, NAR raised her hand. I think your scan made a mistake. We're not exactly Earth's finest. The alien tilted its head. Our scanning technology is flawless. It has identified optimal neural patterns for Academy success. Board the transport vessel immediately. Before they could protest further, a smaller shuttle arrived. With reluctance and bewilderment, the 4 humans entered, carrying their meager belongings and considerable doubts. The journey to orbit took minutes. Through viewports, they watched Earth shrink beneath them as they approached a massive starship. That thing must be kilometers long, Ty whispered, his mechanic's mind already analyzing visible propulsion systems. Aboard the main vessel, they met other selected species, 12-limbed mathematicians from Proxima Centauri, crystalline beings from distant gas giants, and entities that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. Welcome, humans, said a tall, mantis-like creature with gleaming compound eyes. I am Delegate Rix. You will represent your species at the Academy. Your quarters are prepared. When can we meet other human representatives? G asked, notebook already in hand. There are no others, Rix clicked. Only 4 positions were allocated to Earth. Your planet is unproven. The humans exchanged glances, the weight of responsibility suddenly feeling crushing. Their quarters were comfortable but alien, beds that adjusted to body temperature, walls that changed color with mood, and food synthesizers that attempted Earth cuisine with mixed results. That evening, they gathered in Doan's room, attempting to process their situation. Why us? Nari wondered, disassembling and reassembling a communicator device absent-mindedly. I can't even keep a job at a convenience store. Maybe that's it, G suggested, her eyes bright with sudden insight. We don't think like others. Our brains work differently. Ty snorted. Different doesn't mean better. In military operations, unexpected approaches sometimes succeed where conventional tactics fail, Doan noted. The ship jolted slightly as it entered faster-than-light travel. Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines of light. A holographic message appeared in their quarters, Journey to Academy, 3 Earth days. Prepare for preliminary assessment upon arrival. Assessment? Nari groaned. I haven't studied anything. We should learn what we can about this Hemini, Doan suggested practically. Knowledge is tactical advantage. Using the room's information terminal, they discovered the Galactic Hemini encompassed thousands of species across multiple galaxies. The Academy represented the pinnacle of achievement, only the most exceptional individuals received invitations. The dropout rate for new species is nearly 90%, G read aloud. Most return to their planets in disgrace. Great, Tom uttered. No pressure. On the 3rd day, they were summoned to the ship's observation deck. Captain Mull waited with several other alien officials. Behold, humans, your new home. The viewport revealed a massive space station orbiting twin stars, one blue, one orange. The structure resembled a gigantic snowflake with crystalline arms extending from a central hub. Interstellar Academy, announced Mull. 8,000 years of accumulated knowledge. The greatest minds of the galaxy. The humans stared in awe and terror. The humans appear physiologically stressed, noted a medical officer with 4 eyes. Expected, replied another alien dismissively. Primitive species often struggle with advanced concepts. Few last beyond the first term. Nari, overhearing this, felt a spark of defiance. She glanced at her fellow humans and saw the same determination forming in their expressions. We'll show them, she whispered. Underachievers or not, the transport pod carried them toward the glittering academy, where elite alien species waited to witness their spectacular failure, entirely unaware that Earth's accidental representatives possessed exactly the unconventional thinking the galaxy would soon desperately need. The transport pod docked at one of the Academy's crystalline arms. The four humans stepped onto a transparent platform, trying not to look down at the vast emptiness of space beneath their feet. The station's gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's, giving them an odd, bouncy feeling as they walked. "Follow me," instructed a hovering robot guide. Orientation begins immediately. The halls of the Academy stretched in impossible directions, with students of various species moving purposefully through the corridors. Some floated, others crawled on multiple legs, and a few seemed to phase in and out of visibility. "I feel like I'm in a weird dream," Tai whispered to Nari. They entered a massive dome where hundreds of beings gathered. At the center stood a tall, elegant creature with silvery skin that reflected rainbow patterns. Four slender arms emerged from flowing robes decorated with symbols that seemed to move and change. "Welcome, new students. I am Supreme Scholar Verth, Chancellor of the Interstellar Academy." The voice resonated directly in their minds rather than through their ears. "For 8 millennia, we have gathered the greatest minds of the galaxy within these halls." Vertha's gaze fell upon the humans, and they felt a chill. "Some species join us for the first time, still proving their worth to the Hemini. Your performance here determines your civilization's standing." After orientation, the humans were shown to their shared living quarters, a circular room with 4 sleeping pods and a common area. The walls displayed stunning views of the binary star system. "Classes begin tomorrow," the robot guide announced. "Your schedules have been transmitted to your personal devices." When the guide left, G collapsed onto a cushioned seat. "Did you hear what those Arcturus students were saying about us? They're betting we won't last a week." "I checked our schedules," Doan said, looking at his device. "Advanced COP physics, multidimensional mathematics, quantum communication theory, we're doomed." "Maybe," NR paced the room. "Or maybe they don't realize what humans can do when backed into a corner." The next morning found them in their first class, Advanced COP physics with Professor Tech, a bulbous creature with 8 eyes arranged in a circle around its head. The classroom had 50 students, with the humans clustered together at one workstation. "Today we examine gravitational wave manipulation," Tech announced. "A simple concept for most of you." The professor's eyes swiveled toward the humans. "For our newest species, I suggest observing today and not attempting the practical exercise. Your brains likely lack the capacity to comprehend the mathematical models." Several students made sounds that might have been laughter. "Begin the simulations," Tech ordered. Holographic displays appeared at each workstation. Other students immediately began manipulating complex equations and three-dimensional models with practiced ease. Many species used multiple limbs to work on different aspects simultaneously. "What now?" Tai asked. G was already scribbling in her notebook. "I'm trying to understand the basic principles. It seems similar to some quantum gravity theories from Earth, but more advanced." "Let me see," NR said, examining the equations. "The interface is strange, but the underlying physics might be approachable." For hours they struggled while other students completed the assignment with ease. By the end of class, the humans had barely understood the basics while their classmates created complex gravitational simulations. "Disappointing, but expected," Professor Tech commented as they left. "Humans might consider whether continued attendance is worthwhile." This pattern repeated across their classes. In multidimensional mathematics, they faced problems involving 12 spatial dimensions. In quantum communication, they struggled to understand concepts that their classmates had learned as children. 2 weeks into the term, they gathered in their quarters, exhausted and demoralized. "I can't do this," Tai said, throwing his tablet onto his bed. "I was fixing food trucks a month ago. Now I'm supposed to understand 12-dimensional calculus." "We're failing everything," NAR agreed. Doan had been quiet, methodically reviewing notes. "There's something interesting I've noticed," he said finally. "The teaching methods here favor certain types of thinking. What do you mean? G asked. Everything is sequential, ordered, building on established principles. There's no encouragement for intuitive leaps or creative connections. G sat up straighter. You're right. And when I tried suggesting an alternative approach in communications class, Professor Melick dismissed it immediately. The next day in COP physics, they watched as students created increasingly complex gravitational models. Suddenly, NR noticed something in the simulation of a proximate student. That waveform pattern, it's creating instability at the edges, she whispered. G nodded. They're all so focused on the mathematical perfection, they're missing the practical applications. When Professor Tech assigned a new problem, stabilizing a complex gravitational field, NAR had an idea. What if, instead of trying to solve it mathematically first, we approach it like an engineering problem, she suggested to her friends. They worked together, with Nari applying engineering principles, Tai using his mechanical intuition, G making unexpected connections between concepts, and Doan organizing their approach. Their solution was messy, unorthodox, and definitely not following standard academy methodology. When Tech came to their station, all 8 eyes widened in surprise. This approach is irregular, the professor stated. Yet somehow functional. How did you determine this solution path? We just saw a pattern, NR said simply. For the first time, other students looked at the humans with something other than dismissal. This small success gave them courage. In multidimensional mathematics, rather than trying to visualize 12 dimensions at once, G suggested breaking the problem into manageable pieces and looking for connections between them. In quantum communications, Doan applied military encoding principles to solve a transmission problem. None of their solutions were elegant by academy standards, but they worked. More importantly, they sometimes addressed practical problems that the mathematically perfect solutions missed. One evening, they were summoned to Chancellor Vertha's office. The Supreme Scholar's silver skin pulsed with colors as they entered. Your professors report unusual approaches in your classes, Verth stated. Professor Tech is particularly concerned about your methods in COP physics. The humans exchanged nervous glances. Is that a problem? Doan asked carefully. The Academy values precision and established methodology, Verth replied. Earth remains on probation. Unorthodox approaches raise questions about your species' suitability. After they left, Tai kicked a wall in frustration. So even when we solve the problems, we're wrong because we didn't do it their way. We need to find a balance, G suggested. Learn their methods but maintain our unique perspective. Over the following weeks, they worked twice as hard as their classmates, learning standard techniques while still developing their own approaches. They began to realize that humans possessed certain advantages. They made intuitive leaps, saw unexpected connections, and approached problems from multiple angles simultaneously. During a quantum communications exercise, G suddenly connected 2 previously unrelated theories, creating a novel solution to a transmission problem. Professor Melick, initially skeptical, was forced to acknowledge the approach's effectiveness. In the academy cafeteria, they noticed other students beginning to watch them with curiosity rather than disdain. A few even approached to discuss their methods. Your species thinks strangely, commented a crystalline being from Rachel. It is disordered, yet sometimes insightful. Professor Tech remained their harshest critic, constantly challenging and questioning their work. During one class, the professor presented a particularly complex gravitational problem involving multiple interacting fields. This represents a practical application you might encounter, Tech explained, all 8 eyes blinking in sequence. Standard solution methods have been established for centuries. As the class worked, the humans noticed something the standard approach missed, a small instability that would grow over time, eventually causing the entire system to collapse. Should we mention it? Tai whispered. Definitely, NR replied. When they presented their findings, Professor Tech initially dismissed them. You've clearly misunderstood the principles involved. But look at the model, G insisted, highlighting the area of concern. The standard approach doesn't account for this feedback loop. The classroom went silent as Tech examined their work. Finally, the professor's skin changed color slightly. What they would later learn was an expression of surprise. This requires further analysis, Tech admitted reluctantly. Though still struggling academically, the humans were beginning to find their place at the academy. Their unique perspective was becoming recognized, if not fully appreciated. They didn't know it yet, but this different way of thinking would soon become crucial to the entire academy's survival. The academy's routine was shattered during a standard morning lecture. A deep vibration rumbled through the station, causing the lights to flicker. Students looked up from their work in confusion. "Attention all personnel," the station's automated voice announced. "Minor power fluctuation detected. Continue normal operations." Professor Tech's 8 eyes blinked rapidly. "Return to your calculations. Routine maintenance." Another, stronger vibration cut through the professor's words. This time the lights went completely dark before emergency systems activated, bathing the room in a dim red glow. "That's not a minor fluctuation," NR whispered to her fellow humans. The station's voice returned, now with an urgent tone, "Alert. Antimatter containment field instability detected. All personnel implement Stability Protocol Delta 9 immediately." The alien students moved with practiced precision, shutting down equipment and moving to designated positions. The humans, never having practiced this protocol, followed as best they could. "What's happening?" Tai asked a 6-armed student next to him. "Containment field failure," the alien replied curtly. "If it collapses completely, the antimatter will contact normal matter and..." "Boom," Tai finished. "Big boom." A third shudder, more violent than the previous 2, rocked the station. Students stumbled, and equipment crashed to the floor. "Critical failure imminent," the station announced. "Evacuation protocols initiated. Proceed to emergency vessels immediately." The classroom erupted in controlled chaos as students rushed to the exits. Professor Tech called for order, directing everyone to follow established procedures. In the corridor, the 4 humans found themselves pushed along in a stream of various species heading toward the evacuation pods. "Something's wrong," Doan said, grabbing Nari's arm. "Look at the emergency directional lights." The lights, designed to guide people to safety, were blinking in conflicting patterns. "The system's confused," G observed. "Like it's receiving contradictory commands." "We need more information," Doan decided. He spotted a maintenance terminal and pushed against the flow toward it. The others followed him. NAR immediately began accessing the terminal, bypassing security with tricks she'd learned during her engineering studies on Earth. "The antimatter containment field is destabilizing," she reported. "But the backups should have engaged automatically. Something's blocking them." Tai leaned in, studying the system diagrams. Despite his limited formal education, he had an intuitive understanding of mechanical systems. "Look at this," he pointed. "The coolant system for the containment field generators is overheating, but the secondary coolant isn't activating because this connection is showing as severed. Can we fix it?" Doan asked. "Maybe," NR said. "But we'd need to reach the main engineering section, which is in the opposite direction from evacuation." G noted, watching streams of students and faculty hurrying past. Doan made a quick decision. "We should tell Professor Tech. This might be important." They fought their way back against the crowd to where Tech was directing students. "Professor," Doan called. "We found something about the containment field failure." All 8 eyes turned to them. "Follow evacuation protocols immediately," Tech ordered. "This is not the time for human disruptions." "But sir," NAR insisted. "The backup systems aren't engaging properly. The readings show. Academy systems are the most sophisticated in the galaxy," Tech interrupted. Emergency protocols have been refined over thousands of years. Follow them. Another violent shudder ran through the station, stronger than before. Overhead, a section of ceiling panel broke loose, crashing down near them. We don't have time to argue, Tai said. If that containment field fails completely, no one will reach the evacuation pods. The humans exchanged looks, coming to a silent agreement. We're going to engineering, Doan announced. Professor, evacuate with the others if you wish. To their surprise, Tech hesitated, then said, this action violates all protocols. However, I will accompany you to ensure you do not cause further damage. They moved against the tide of evacuees, following NAR's directions based on station schematics she had studied out of curiosity weeks earlier. When main corridors became blocked by emergency barriers, Doan remembered maintenance passages he had noticed during his security-minded explorations of the station. Through here, he directed, opening a narrow access panel. These service tunnels run throughout the station. How do you know about these? Tech demanded. I like knowing all available routes, Doan replied simply. Military habit. The tunnels were cramped, especially for Tech's bulbous form, but they made rapid progress toward engineering. When they arrived, they found the section in chaos. Alien engineers worked frantically at terminals while warning lights flashed everywhere. The field will collapse in approximately 15 minutes, announced the chief engineer, a tall insectoid being. We cannot stabilize it. The backup systems are not responding. Let us help, NAR said, stepping forward. The chief engineer looked at them dismissively. This system requires specialists with decades of training. Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions others miss, G argued. Before the chief could object further, another violent tremor shook the station. Several control panels exploded in showers of sparks. We have nothing to lose, Tech unexpectedly supported them. Let them examine the systems. Given reluctant permission, the humans spread out. Tai immediately went to examine the physical components of the cooling system, while Nari studied the control interfaces. G began scanning through system logs, and Doan organized their findings. The coolant lines are intact, Tai reported after crawling through a maintenance duct. But the control signals aren't reaching the backup pumps. The logs show commands being issued correctly, G added. But something's intercepting them before they reach the hardware. It's like the system thinks it's already fixed the problem. There's a feedback loop giving false positive signals, NAR observed. 10 minutes to containment failure, the station announced emotionlessly. We need a manual bypass, Tai suggested. Forget the automated systems entirely. Tech's eyes blinked rapidly. Impossible. The safety interlocks prevent manual operation during emergency conditions. Then we work around them, NAR said firmly. She turned to the chief engineer. Do you have portable power cells and raw materials for building conductors? The chief hesitated, then nodded to an assistant who brought the requested items. Working with frantic speed, NAR and Tai began constructing a crude bypass circuit. G identified which systems needed to be connected, her scattered thinking perfect for keeping track of multiple interconnected systems simultaneously. Doan organized the alien engineers to help, his military experience useful in coordinating the emergency response. 5 minutes to containment failure. Almost there, Nari muttered, connecting the last components of their jury-rigged solution. Tai, stand by with the coolant override. Ready, he confirmed, positioning himself by a manual valve. 3 minutes to containment failure. Now. NAR shouted, activating their bypass. Tai spun the valve open. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the warning indicators began to change from red to yellow. Containment field stabilizing, the station reported. Temporary equilibrium achieved. The engineering bay erupted in the alien equivalent of cheers, clicks, whistles, and vibrations expressing relief. This is only temporary, NAR cautioned. We've bypassed the automated systems, but something's fundamentally wrong with the control architecture. Tech moved closer, studying their improvised solution with all 8 eyes. This should not have been necessary. The automated systems should have engaged. Something was blocking them, G agreed. Almost like sabotage, Tech finished quietly. The humans looked at the professor in surprise. You suspected this? Doan asked. I had concerns, Tech admitted. Certain anomalies in system performance recently, nothing conclusive. As the engineering team worked to implement more permanent fixes based on the humans' bypass, Tech drew them aside. Your actions today were highly irregular, the professor stated. You violated multiple protocols, ignored evacuation orders, and implemented unauthorized system modifications. The humans braced for reprimand. However, Tech continued, skin color shifting slightly, your irregular thinking may have saved the academy. This bears further investigation. As they left engineering, exhausted but triumphant, they found a crowd of students and faculty waiting. Word of their actions had spread throughout the station. Their classmates looked at them with new eyes, not as primitive curiosities, but as beings worthy of respect. Supreme Scholar Verth approached, silver skin shimmering with rapid color changes.